Hey fellas, so I just saw Fantastic Beasts of Crimes of The Secrets of Dumbledore earlier today, and I've got some good news and some bad news for everyone. The good news is it opened number one this past weekend, and it's a bit better than the last movie. The bad news is that it's actually on track to potentially become like the lowest grossing installment, even less than the last movie, and still not quite as good as the first, which sure paint an interesting picture of what could happen next for the series, even disregarding the divisive details of the screenwriter's personal life, which I won't be getting too much detail here because that's actually the least of the maladies the film has endured, and so might as well get this started. So the movie picks up roughly where here the last one left off. About 18 months have passed in the universe, much longer than that out of universe, as you can imagine, where Albus Dumbledore, playing him Jude Law, has to risk the blood pact he made with Gellert Grindelwald, played now by Mads Mikkelsen, a move which I have been advocating for, or given the legal problems faced by the last actor. Let's just say that I totally understand why they're not making any more Pirates films and they're retooling the ride again. And as Newt Scamander, played by Eddie Redmayne, as well as Jack Kowalski, playing by Dan Fogler, are drawn into this conflict, they must decide whether or not to make a stand against this disaster or to be crushed by it. Yeah. So the symbolism isn't quite as on the nose as the last movie was, but it's close. I mean, I'm not sure how many scenes were reconfigured due to current events or not, but let's just say that, hey, if you're made uncomfortable by the sort of subtext, then I'm not going to hold against you to decide to skip this film or at the release wait for it to come on HBO Max or VOD. Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I understand why they're doing it because sometimes get perspective on issues being faced in the present. One way to look at it is to look at through a lens of the past, tinged with a bit of fantasy, and at the same time, I also understand, and if they had to recast as Miller's role as Credence going forward, given Ezra's legal problems, or even potentially just writing out the role entirely. I mean, and thankfully, Catherine Waterston is still in there as Tina. Given how much I liked her character in the last couple movies. But regrettably, I won't get into much detail how. It's clear art was impacted by the pandemic and by her being on maternity leave, I mean, which it's maybe not in the top 10 in the most troubling things about the film, but yeah. Said, what works about the previous two movies still works here, being the period fantasy elements and the beasts are, of course, as the title implies, fantastic. I mean, I especially liked this part where Eddie is having to do this kind of crab walk when he's trying to get his brother their thesis out of prison for a crime he didn't commit. He's also there's also this one called a chill line. I won't say how he's going to be important to the plot. I mean, especially, and there's not as much of the heavy-handedness there was in the last movie, which I liken to like a YA series that CW passed on, and I would prefer if they did make the fourth and fifth movies they are planning on to maybe dial back the family drama and focus on the period fantasy and the beasts, which, like, given how they use Germany as well as Bhutan in the finale, I mean, depicting a part of the world no longer exists as well as a bunch of beasts never exist at all, that spin was like what made the first movie so interesting. And that's what was like. Those were the best parts of like the last movie and this one. I mean, and to be fair, here, even though I've had conflicting feelings towards the screenwriter for fairly obvious reasons, I definitely with Daniel and Eddie on this one. But that aside, with the $200 million budget being the same as the last movie, they're gonna have to make at least $400 million worldwide break even, let alone justify the next couple movies. If all else fails, I could see them being potentially retooling for HBO Max, saying I might do a spoiler review after it streams in the next 45 days. I might not. I'll just have to see how I feel after I do my ones on The Batman as well as No Way Home. And like I said, ahead in my look at the last movie, it's clear the WB's got an uphill battle on their hands. The music is also still really good. Nicholas Hooper's arrangements are still really enjoyable. It's not just the style talking, I just really like the music in this saga. But anyway, this most considered too spoilery, so I will contemplate doing the spoiler review after it comes on HBO Max. Because I saw a lot, most of it. To at least pass judgment on it here, to give this like a solid 3.5 stars out of 4. And now for riff on some coming attractions. Okay, so going with release order once again, as well as keeping with like the magic theme. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, May 6th, after over 5 years of waiting, almost 6. And many more appearances in other MCU works, such as the Avengers films, as well as No Way Home. We're finally getting a sequel to Doctor Strange, which is one of my favorite movies of Phase 2. Of Phase 3 and of 2016. And this time, Sam Raimi's at the helm. He's more than qualified to work on this movie, given how he's directed both Horror the Evil Dead trilogy as well as Marvel's Over the Spider-Man trilogy, which has elements of both. And as for Patrick Stewart's response to whether or not he's going to be one of the X-Men they brought in, and I definitely say that wasn't an outright yes, as they tweeted out, but it was definitely pretty far from a no. Much like how Toby and Andrew were with Spider-Man before they officially dropped the ball bombshell. It's like a way of saying I'd like to tell you more, but I can't. This kind of NDA stuff, like it's always kind of like the whole cheeky kind of answers like that. And of course, it definitely implies that WandaVision, as well as like the Supreme Strange and What If miniseries, is still canon. I also got a clear glimpse of Superior Iron Man, as well as potentially some of the Marvel Zombies. So, definitely looking forward to this one. Definitely an opening weekend one for me. Yeah. So, Top Gun Maverick, May 27th, Memorial Day weekend, basically, and nearly 2 years after which it was intended to release, if not a bit longer. It was mostly complete before everything happened, and before the mimetic, like, going off on the crew, as well as the shenanigans with the next couple Mission Impossible movies, which I'm more interested in. I'm gonna wait and see how this one turns out first, because I want to make clear, I don't think the original one from the 80s is a bad movie. I just don't really love it as much as other people might. I've seen it, I've seen the memes, as well as listened to the soundtrack way more times than I prefer to admit. But I think the best case scenario is if they make it kind of like a legacy sequel, like other ones I'm going to be talking about in a few moments, and which does show that even in the age of machine warfare here and drone strikes, that human military pilots are still invaluable resource, or so. I guess we'll find soon enough, and at this point, I would just give Tom the not full 90 days before it comes to Paramount Plus, as if he's being like that about it. But that's just me. Yeah. So, June 10th, Jurassic World Dominion, the third and final installment of the Jurassic World trilogy, and with the elements of the original movies, the final installment of nearly 30 years of storytelling. I will say that Goldblum, Neil, and Durden definitely winning the 30-year challenge by a landslide. I mean, the fact that the original movie still resonated with so many people, and even its sequel is very well in quality, while still making money, he definitely showed that this franchise still has a fan base, and I'm looking forward to seeing like not just them wreaking havoc in California, but also seeing them in Montana and even in Italy, I think, where I mean, and even though I admit to liking the last couple movies, like they were close in style and tone to the original one. I certainly hope that after all the delays, this is phased to a point of being partially the inspiration for the bubble, given the situation, everything happening. It should hopefully be another big hit for Universal, who, outside of like their work with Illumination as well as the Fast and Furious films, their box office track has been a bit dicey lately. So hopefully this will definitely be just what they need, because life finds a way. June 17th, Lightyear is also a bit like my belated addressing of like the second trailer, which just came out a few days ago. How it got to like 1 million views in the first few hours and still climbing. This prequel to the Toy Story series, centered around Buzz, with Chris Pratt, and also is implied to be like the in-universe inspiration for like the Buzz Lightyear action figure, and also plenty of Easter eggs to be sure, or like the mission log he has on his wrist communicator. I mean, and also Zurg is going to be voiced by James Brolin, Josh's father. So it's easy to joke that apparently Captain America is going to be going into space to fight face off against like the father of Thanos as well. I mean, and while I'm on that subject, it seems like Taika is also going to be a supporting voice role. I mean, so I can definitely say that you officially made your sale, hail, as we're putting in that subplot as well. I mean, I once again reiterate, hey, it's how that kind of relationship is somehow hard to believe than a space station going beyond infinity. Hey, I mean, it definitely has a kind of vibe of like a lot of those ones from 70s and 80s things that were casting on Star Wars for the intention, and doesn't look any worse tonally than the MCU or Star Wars movies they've done. And I'm just gonna, for the time being at least, not gonna go into Florida anytime soon. Make of that what you will. Yeah. Last but definitely not least, he's the Elvis biopic by Baz Luhrmann, Moulin Rouge fame, which stars Austin Butler as the king and stars Tom Hanks as promoter. I've mentioned this before in some previous videos, and it's clear that they're going to be promoting this quite a lot. And even though I'm once again going to wait to see how this goes, I definitely probably wouldn't object to watching it once it came online. Even though I'm probably going to be prioritizing both Jurassic World and Lightyear in June, I definitely think there's still an audience for biopics, which are looks like I'm not sure if they're gonna be like I keep saying. I'm not sure they're gonna be going to like a straight out Compton levels of detail, which not only captured that group's breaking out, but also the very bittersweet ending of Easy E's final days, which I think was what E would have wanted. I mean, or even if they'll do like Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man level numbers, it should be interesting because like Ball is definitely the kind of director who definitely understands that kind of style and kind of like how legend like persona. Like the details of him breaking out in the 50s, he's making movies in the 60s, and even his final days in the 70s, and even the days when he wins his dad's mission as well. Also, and that'll be all for now. I will definitely see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.